there, this is Welsh ASMR 82. Hey, how you doing? So in today's little calm roundup of the Champions League and the Europa League final group stage matches, we're going to talk Benfica, we're going to talk Roma, we're going to talk about Arsenal, we're going to talk about Spurs and Real Madrid, and about all the clubs really. So I hope that you are ready for your football news and reactions in a calm, quiet way. This is an ASMR football channel, and we're going to chill out as we talk about the Champions League and Europa League results from last week. I hope you liked the video. Also, first and foremost, thank you to everyone who's been commenting, particularly, which is super helpful, those of you who have been commenting on, because I changed my camera, I've got a new iPhone, and it's been really bright, and I hadn't figured out how to use it, so I've spent a couple of minutes just trying to work out how to make it look a little bit darker for you. I don't want it blazing in your face when you're watching this, and also trying to get it to hone in on the words and get them more clear and stop fading out every time my hand moves into screen. So yeah, thanks for your comments, helping me out with that, and I hope that this experience is a little bit better anyway. Okay, let's talk about the Champions League first, and then we'll look at the Europa League. So let's first of all, they've drawn, I didn't realise they'd drawn the matches, oh that's exciting, okay. So of course all of the matches took place at the same time last Wednesday, meaning that it was total chaos and absolutely fantastic for us, particularly myself as a neutral. I don't really have a stake in any of the teams in the Champions League this year. So it was really exciting to see this team going to the top 8, this team going to the playoff round, this team be out of the competition altogether 1 minute, and then a goal goes in Italy, nothing to do with the two teams, and all of a sudden those two teams are out, or out of the top 8, or yeah, it was really fascinating. The coverage we had here in the UK of it was really, really good on TNT Sports, used to be BT Sports, because they've got like a studio where they're just covering every single match, and doing this thing that I first saw happen with the German football, which can't happen in the UK because of the viewing rights is shared by so many different companies and streaming platforms and whatever of the Premier League. But in Germany, you watch like one stream and it goes, oh, there's been a goal in this other match, and then you go there. And so that's what they do for this as well, and I love that concept of watching the Bundesliga. I used to go to a nice German bar in London on a Saturday and watch the Bundesliga and watch all the goals go in. It's a much better way of doing it. It's a bit like Soccer Saturday, but you can actually see the goals. I hope they do actually get rid of that stupid rule of no football on a Saturday between 3 and 6 in the UK, because that is just shocking still at this day and age. Okay, let's talk about the matches then. So Ajax gave themselves a chance to get through last week, but ultimately failed. Dolberg's penalty was absolutely fantastic, but Martins and Heze waving the flag for Greek football. So we'll come back to that point. But yeah, the Greeks have done very well in this year's Champions League. I did say maybe 2 seasons ago I felt that the Greek and Turkish clubs were starting to get a bit better again, and that they're going to start playing a part in Champions League, Europa League, Conference League results. I do still think that we could see a winner of Europa League or Conference League that comes from Turkey or Greece. But yeah, they won. Well done. I did say don't take Kairat Almaty lightly. They didn't. Kairat Almaty are just a bit... They're quite decent, you know. Gyökeres scored Havertz's lovely goal, and Martinelli, and then a penalty from Jorginho and a goal right at the end from Ricardinho. The goals kind of suggest it was an even match, but it absolutely wasn't. Arsenal were all over them. 3.94 compared to 1, but you know, 1 in Arsenal Stadium, that's pretty decent. So Kairat will leave this competition in last place, but actually with their head held high. So I think that's a really good result for both teams, and Arsenal obviously invincible in this competition this year and have to be considered the favourites to win it at the moment. What a topsy-turvy match this was. So Sunset, lovely goal, scored for Athletic Club, then Diomande, then Guruceta scored the second one, so they went back in front, then Trincao, and then 94th minute Santos. And the really important thing about that goal is that it put Sporting in the top 8 ahead of some really big teams, which we'll have a look at after we've gone through these results. Very big moment, actually. Even though it seems like a relatively small event, it finishes off what has been an absolutely fantastic couple of games for Sporting, campaign from Sporting, and they are doing so well in the competition this year. They're above some really big teams, and I think it will give them confidence going into the next round. Let's see how far they can go. Another outstanding result from Bodo Glimt. They're like my second favourite team at the moment. Just watching them just brings me so much joy. They have no right to be doing so well in this competition. 2 wins on the bounce, 2 very difficult wins on the bounce, and they are doing so well. I'm really, really proud. As we said, for Greek football and Turkish football, Norwegian football is also on the up, it seems. So that's an absolutely outstanding result for them. 2-1 winners in Madrid against Atletico. Sørloth, the Norwegian, scored, and then Sjövold and Hög with the 2 goals for the away team. I obviously had the pleasure of watching them in the Europa League against Roma a couple of years ago, and they've been building and building in terms of their European credentials for a couple of years now, but I think that they are just doing so well, and yeah, flying the flag for Norway in Europe at the moment. No team from Norway has ever got out to the group stage in the Champions League, and we'll see that they, in a little moment, that they have for the first time, so that's outstanding for Norwegian football. And as I'm always considering the coefficiency ranking as well. Talking about Scandinavian football, Denmark went ahead. Tadasson, the young boy, put them 1-0 up, but then eventually in the second half Barcelona got into that gear they wanted to be in, so Lewandowski, Yamal, Rafinha and Rashford. But everyone's saying, all the commentators are saying, oh, the defence isn't good enough. The goal is really sloppy from the centre-backs. It's literally a through ball of this extremely high line that Barcelona have famously got. And I think a lot of people are thinking that Barcelona won't make it to a quarter-final, or a semi-final certainly. They were my early picks to get to a semi-final this year, but actually the way that they are playing puts doubt in my mind, and it would be sort of contra to all of the professionals and pundits' opinions at the moment that Barcelona are going to challenge for the title this year, the Champions League title, because of their ridiculously and irresponsible at times high line. They are the highest line now that Ange Postecoglou is not managing Tottenham. They're the highest line in Europe, and it's just too easy to score against them. I mean, I know they've got class and they can score way more than you, but that's not going to work against a Bayern, Inter, who else? Maybe a Arsenal. I don't think you're going to outscore Arsenal. Arsenal's defence are just too good. So, yeah, I think Barcelona are going to come unstuck, and I don't see them changing. Hansi Flick is quite stubborn, that's his way. His way or the highway. Leverkusen 3, Villarreal, who have had a miserable competition, last but one, I think, in the league table. 3-0 winners, 2 for the American Tillman, looking very, very good ahead of the World Cup this summer, and another from that brilliant Grimaldo, the Spanish international. He's so classy. So we finally got to this match. I feel like saving it till the end, but so it kicked off a little bit later the second half than the other matches. I think because the first half kicked off a bit late. So once all the other matches had finished, this one went on screen because it was the only one still going, and it was just magnificent. Now, I didn't, like I said, I was watching the sort of highlight show, so I didn't watch the 90 minutes of this match, I just saw the last couple. But the commentators and the pundits were saying that Benfica could have scored like 6. Real were just really off colour. Mbappe still scored 2. They had 2 red cards. It was a very feisty affair towards the end, and I think that's got a lot to do with Mourinho. But also, I think Arbeloa, the new manager, or interim manager of Madrid, has got a little bit of a job on his hands. I think one of the reasons that Alonso failed is because he couldn't deal with the egos in the dressing room. All the abilities there, obviously, but the egos were the issue that he couldn't manage. And I think those egos are starting to just kind of run wild, and they're just very ill-disciplined, arguing with the referee constantly. I think Arbeloa's task is to sort of manage them and be like, look, you know, we're excellent, let's show it on the pitch. Let's not answer back to the referee and challenge decisions and wave our arms everywhere. And easier said than done. It's, you know, it's not something that's going to fix overnight, but it is going to hold them back. Benfica were basically out, then scored right at the death. So they needed, it's pertinent because 3-2 wouldn't have been enough to get them through on goal difference. They were still out, winning 3-2. So they threw everyone forward. And then in the 98th minute, they had a, was it a corner or was it a free kick? I think it was a corner. And Mourinho said, get up to the goalkeeper. Threw in, and as you can see, he's there. He scores this absolutely outstanding header. Like, I was literally screaming in the living room. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe he's ahead. You know, it's always amazing when you see a goalkeeper score, particularly from a header at a corner. It's just very exciting, old-fashioned, good exciting. Yeah, my friend from work, who's a massive Benfica fan from Lisbon, messaged me the next day in work on Teams and was like, did you see the match last night? I was like, yeah, I meant to text you last night. He's absolutely over the moon. So, like I said, that match, that scoreline, extremely important for Benfica, and it's not the last we'll see of them. I'm actually intrigued now that the matches have been drawn, because there's a large chance that Benfica could actually draw Real for the knockout round. So I haven't seen the knockout round yet. I wonder whether we'll see a repeat. I hope so. Okay, Inter beating Dortmund 2-0, Di Marco, and with a lovely goal and Diouf on the 94th minute, so Inter looking good. Club Brugge putting Marseille out with a 3-0 win. So we talked about Norwegian football and Greek football. Club Brugge are definitely flying the flag in this competition for Belgian football and keeping their coefficiency ranking high. Dijon, Vermont and Stankovic with the 3 goals, and Marseille will be extremely disappointed. They started the competition so well and it was just completely faded away. I think some of their fans will be quite angry that they've gone out. You know, 1 minute they're saying De Zerbi is going to be the next Man United manager, and now he can barely win a game. You know, what's going on? Talk about barely winning a game. Tottenham are doing so much better in this competition than they are in the Premier League. And they managed to beat Frankfurt, who I said have got the shakiest defence, 2-0. Kolomwani and Solanke. Solanke being back. I hope he didn't get injured on the weekend. I watched Spurs on the weekend and they looked so much better with him in the team, and he went off. I'm not sure if he's injured. I hope not, because yeah, they've changed things. Karabakh were already through, so it didn't matter too much, but impressive 6-0 win from Liverpool. McAllister with 2 goals, Ekitike with a goal, another one from Viet. He's got some ridiculous thing like 6 goals in 8 games or something now. He's really taken off. Even Salah got on the goal scoring, and sort of a cheeky goal from Chiesa at the end, who's quite underused. Was injured, unfortunately, when Salah was away. Didn't get to take his place. And he's back now that Salah's back as well, so very unfortunate for Chiesa, but very classy player still. despite his injuries. And then Man City beating Galatasaray 2-0. Haaland and Shirky. Shirky just looks fantastic every time he gets on the ball, doesn't he? He's a really class player. Monaco Juventus 0-0. But it doesn't affect two of them. They were sort of mid-table of the qualifying playoff teams anyway, so it didn't matter too much. Really interesting game, this. It went back and forth initially. Paphos, how well have they done this season for a Cypriot team? Yeah, like they've done so well. Dragomir Felipe, Silvan Orsic against Chalopek's goal, which was an equaliser at the time he scored. Off the top of my head, I think both teams are out, but actually it's a bit unlucky for Paphos because I think that they've put in some really, really good performances this year. I hope they're back next year. And then a bit of a grudge match because of what happened 2 years ago in the match between Newcastle and PSG in the group stage. So Vitinha scoring Vitinha only scores amazing goals, doesn't need to be fair. And then Joe Willock with a lovely goal. So 1-1, and it was end-to-end. It was an absolutely fantastic match. But good to see Newcastle getting something out of that match. PSV losing at home to Bayern. Saibari with the only goal for the home team, but then Musiala and Kane with the 2 goals for the away team. They're looking good to, potentially get to, what do we think for Bayern, a semi-final, a final? They're looking really good this year. They've had a mild slump in their own league, but yeah, nothing too bad. And talking about slumps, Napoli, both in the league and in the Champions League, there's some weird stat that Antonio Conte, the manager of Napoli, really doesn't win many matches in Europe, despite the fact that he always seems to go in and immediately win the title with whichever team he takes over. He's done it with Napoli, he's done it with Chelsea. And yeah, basically he just doesn't seem to get the Champions League. It's very odd. And Napoli are out. A massive team challenging for the Scudetto in Italy, but they're out, and Chelsea, Joao Pedro particularly, but another important goal from Enzo Fernandez, Vergara and Højlund with the 2 goals for Napoli, but it wasn't enough, and they're out, even playing at home. Well done to Chelsea. And then a little bit of a surprising result, Union Saint-Gilloise beating Atalanta, Khalaili with the only goal on the 70th minute. So Atalanta losing that one. So not a great night for Italian football. Let's look at the table and then we look at the upcoming matches. So Arsenal, 8 out of 8. Wow. Bayern in 2nd place. Liverpool making it to 3rd place. Spurs. Yes, that's right. Spurs are in 4th, which is incredibly surprising. Barcelona in 5th. Chelsea in 6th. Sporting, remember what I said, in 7th. And Man City getting into the 8th spot, 1 point ahead of Real and Inter, which of course means that Sporting have effectively put Real, Inter and Paris Saint-Germain into the playoffs, which is stunning for Portuguese football. I'm so happy for them. Really, really good for them. But of course, I think it needs to be mentioned that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6 teams. Only Newcastle from England failed to get automatic qualification. I think there is becoming a little bit of a divide in terms of the money that the Premier League get, being, the best league in the world. It is showing, and I wonder what's going to happen with that, because even though Tottenham are struggling in the Premier League, they're obviously outplaying Barcelona, Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, Inter, Juventus, Atletico Madrid in Europe. So that's quite surprising. And then the playoffs, Real, Inter, Paris Saint-Germain, Newcastle, Juve, Atletico, Atlanta made it through, Bayer Leverkusen, Borussia Dortmund, Olympiacos, Club Brugge, Galatasaray made it through, Monaco, I'm trying to think, yes, Monaco, Karabakh have made it through. Well done to Azerbaijani Team Karabakh. Bodo Glimt have made it through, and on that final kick I say kick, header from the goalkeeper Benfica through ahead of Marseille, who drop out. And like I said, it's on goal difference, so it's 8 points each, -2, and then Marseille have -3. So up until that 90th minute of the match that was overrun anyway, Marseille thought they were through, so heartbreaking for them. Other teams do not gone through. Pafos, as I said, quite plucky. Saint-Gilloise, PSV, Athletic Club, Napoli, København, Ajax, massive Ajax, Frankfurt, Slavia Praha, Villarreal down the bottom with Kairat Almaty, which I think a couple of those clubs I would not have said. Marseille, PSV, Napoli and Ajax, I think, or maybe even Villarreal, because they're still like 3rd or 4th in Spain. So it's funny how some teams do well in their division, but they don't do well in the cup. So yeah, that's interesting. Let's look. I can't wait. Okay, Galatasaray, Juventus, Benfica, Real Madrid. They did do it. Oh, I thought it might happen. Dortmund, Atalanta, Monaco, Paris Saint-Germain. I think they'll be a bit disappointed. Karabakh, Newcastle, Bodø/Glimt, Inter, ouch. Club Brugge, Atleti, and Olympiacos, Leverkusen. Okay, so my initial reactions. I think Galatasaray will give Juventus a run for their money at the minute. Juve are hovering between 4th and 5th in Scudetto. Galatasaray flying high. I think Galatasaray will think. I mean, the advantage is Juventus are at home for the second leg, of course. So Galatasaray have to really try and score some goals in Turkey for the first match. But I think that they can. I think that they can do it. On balance, probably Juve will get through, but I think Galatasaray will see this as not a bad draw. Benfica, Real Madrid, who knows what will happen in that match. Mourinho will be as wily as ever. It'll be really fun. There's nothing to say that Benfica can't win. They just literally beat them. So, yeah, that'll be interesting, and I will be watching that match. Dortmund, Atalanta, I think Dortmund will probably win that, but Atalanta are the seeded team, so they're not bad. Monaco, Paris Saint-Germain, I think Paris Saint-Germain will win that easily. They beat them all the time in the league in France, so yeah, it's a shame for Monaco to get a team they're very familiar with, and also bad for French football because it means that definitely one French team is out. Then Karabakh, Newcastle. I think Newcastle will be really happy with that. I mean, it's a long distance to go, but their second game is at home. They cannot take them lightly. They're amazing on the break, but Newcastle will be thinking, well, we avoided, countless other teams that would have been really tricky, like a Galatasaray or a Benfica, for example. Bodø/Glimt, Inter, I think that's probably going to be the end of the road for Bodø/Glimt, but again, Inter going to Norway in February, it could be snowing. They're excellent at home anyway, so Inter need to be very careful of that banana skin. Club Brugge against Atleti is kind of even. I think Atleti would just about win it, but yeah, they Aston Villa found out a couple of years ago, right, that Club Brugge are no pushovers. And then lastly, Olympiacos, Leverkusen. I'm not sure. I think maybe Leverkusen, but Olympiacos are a pretty decent team, so it could be interesting that they have not had a bad draw. Olympiacos could have had Real Madrid or Inter, Paris Saint-Germain, so I think they'll be okay with having Leverkusen. Also, I'm so chuffed for the Benfica match. Okay, so that is the Champions League. And if you stick around, you will see the Europa League. Okay, so Lyon on top. Oh, actually, we'll do the fixtures first. So, Aston Villa beating Salzburg 3-2. Rodgers, Mings and Gimo. I think it's his debut goal. Yeah, dream impact. He's quite a young kid, isn't he? Well done to him. And Salzburg beaten Konate and Yeo with the 2 goals. Pilseno, I always say, people underestimate, beat Basel in Switzerland. Panos with the only goal. Then we had Celtic. I said to Celtic fans, Utrecht are hopeless at the minute. They're one of my favourite teams, and they are absolutely hopeless at the minute. The managers are retiring in the summer. They are not even in the European spots. They're like mid-table, lower mid-table. So I thought at Celtic Park, Celtic would be absolutely fine. They did give them a bit of a run for their money with 2 goals, De Witt and Blake with the goals. But Nygren, Viergeven own goal, Engels penalty and Trusty with the goal for Celtic to put them through. Oopsie daisy. Then we had a surprising result. Well done to the Romanians. Chisotti with the equalising goal to cancel out Yüksek's goal for Fenerbahce. I'd assumed that Fenerbahce would win that match fairly straightforward, but actually the higher expected goals were for FCSB. So well done to them. And then fantastic campaign for Midtjylland. They beat Dinamo Zagreb 2-0, Simsiram back with the goals. They're one of the better teams in the entire competition at the moment. Sorry to Rangers, they knew they were out anyway, but then coming up against an unstoppable Porto, they are destroying their league at the moment. 3-1, Moura and Fernandes, or is it Fernandes' own goal, Gassama with the opening goal to give a bit of hope to Rangers fans, but yeah, Porto just, and it wasn't a very good game for their final game, to be honest, Rangers. Porto are in such good form at the minute and play lovely football as well. A great campaign for Red Star. Crvena Zvezda drawing with 2 late goals, Lopez and Duarte, against Spanish Celta Vigo, whose campaign's been a little bit underwhelming, I think, but not too bad. Malmö gave Genk a little bit of a scare. They scored in the 4th minute, but then conceded goals from a penalty from Heymans and Karetsas with a lovely goal, the young Greek. And yeah, so they did what they thought they would do. Obviously Malmö are in the off-season of Swedish football at the minute, so not a bad game to have as your final game. Plucky go-ahead Eagles, who won the cup last year in the Netherlands, drawing against Braga 0-0 to finish off their campaign. Well done to them. Overall, it's been a pretty awful week for Dutch football. We will have a little talk about that in a little bit. Lille beating Freiburg, which is surprising actually, because Freiburg have done really well in the campaign so far. But look who it is. Giroud, lovely penalty at the end of the match, getting the win for Lille. Then Ludogorets beating hapless Nice, who just went out to this competition. They've not enjoyed it at all. Stanic with the goal. Well done to the Bulgarians. Another win for Lyon, who look really, really good in this competition. Imber, Mera, Karabets and Rodriguez with the goals. Cancelling out Powercore, unfortunately had some fans die on the way to the stadium. Yakomakis and Meite, they put up a really good fight, got a red card unfortunately as well. I don't think it actually mattered for them in the end, but a plucky performance when, you know, your fans have just passed away. It's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear about that. Bologna, one of my favourite players, Orsolini, scoring along with Rowe and Pobega. Then Nottingham Forest finally got themselves together in this competition. 4-0 winners against Ferencváros, who are a decent team in this competition, Robbie Keane's team. An own goal to start off with, and then 2 from Jesus and 1 from McAtee. Roma got themselves out of jail. Taborda with the very good opening goal, but then massive header from a massive Pole, Żukowski, scoring this 80th minute equaliser with a sort of makeshift team that Roma sent to Greece. I thought we were going to lose. We didn't have many chances in the match. But what we did, we used quite well. So Roma make it through the automatic spaces by the skin of their teeth. Real Betis beating Feyenoord 2-1. Anthony with another goal and El Zazuli. Thanks with the consolation goal for the Dutch team. Sturm Graz beating Brann in the 85th minute, I think it put Brann out actually, which is, I was, shouting about Norwegian football momentarily. Talking about Bode Glimt, Kiteshvili with the goal there, and lastly Stuttgart beating Young Boys. I thought it was going to be a formality, particularly when they were 2-0 up in the 7th minute from Undav and Demirovic. But then Young Boys decided to score 2 absolute worldies. Gigovic, if you haven't seen them, check them out, and Lopa or Lauper, and then Andres breaking their hearts on the 90th minute. I think Young Boys were automatically, I think they were already out. We'll just double check. Yeah, they could have got through actually if they got the draw. Yeah, but that's the way it goes. But yeah, they scored some absolutely beautiful goals. Well done to them. Okay then, so Lyon, Aston Villa I thought would be up towards the top. I did not expect Midtjylland to be up here though, well done to them. Real Betis, Porto, Braga, so Portuguese teams, ahoy. Freiburg and AS Roma. They go through automatically, so well done to them. And then the top half is Genk, Bologna, both the teams who flirted with being in the top 8 when Roma were 1-0 down. Stuttgart, Ferencváros, Nottingham Forest down in 13th. Pilsenia, Crvena Zvezda, Celta Vigo, Thessaloniki, PAOK, Lille, Fenerbahce through, Panathinaikos are through, Celtic make it through with that final win, well done to them. Ludogorets, Dinamo Zagreb, and no, Brann have made it through, yes. Very good for Norwegian football to have another team through. So commiserations to the following Young Boys, Sturm Graz, FCSB, Go Ahead Eagles, this is where we see all the Dutch teams. Go Ahead Eagles, Feyenoord, Basel, Salzburg, Rangers, Nice, Utrecht, Malmö, and Tel Aviv. So yeah, it's been a pretty awful couple of days for Dutch football. If I just remember correctly, I don't think any Dutch teams have made it through, have they? Did PSV go out as well? Yeah, PSV and Ajax are out of the Champions League. But Alkmaar are still in the Conference League. So the only Dutch team left, after all the hard work that they did to get their coefficiency rankings up, they've just completely thrown it away, which is really frustrating. Particularly from someone who, like myself, supports Dutch football and wants them to continue improving. Obviously, Dutch football is hampered by the fact they have all these wonderful academies and all these other teams from around the bigger teams in Europe steal their youngsters. How good would the Dutch league be if their players actually all played there? So I appreciate it's not their fault, but equally. Okay, so who we got then? So we have Brann against Bologna. Okay, Zagreb against Genk, Fenerbahce Forest, PAOK against Celta Vigo, Celtic against Stuttgart, ouch, that's a hard one, Lille against Crvena Zvezda, Ludogorets against Ferencváros, and Panathinaikos against Pilsenia. Okay, so my initial reaction is, I think Bologna will win against Brann. I think Genk will beat Dinamo Zagreb. That is going to be very equal. Could go down to penalties in the final match. I'm going to say Forest, because they are, where all the money is, but Fenerbahce are a really decent team. I think PAOK might put Celta Vigo out, Celta have been underperforming in this competition. Sorry, Celtic. Stuttgart, I think, has to be the favourite for that. I've seen them play this season, they're decent. But we'll see, Lille against Crvena Zvezda. Well, technically, Red Star are the seed in that, so I think that they could go through. Ludogorets Raskat. I think Ferencváros will just about go through, but that's kind of like 50-50. As is Victoria Pilsenia against Panathinaikos. These are much closer matches en masse than the Champions League. I think Victoria Pilsenia might go through, but Panathinaikos are probably favourites. We'll see. Pilsenia are difficult to beat, but Panathinaikos are a really good team, so we'll see. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found the visual experience of this video a little bit better. Let me know in the comment section. I do like to improve all the time, and I bought a new camera, so it messed up all of my settings and everything as I was playing around with it. Hopefully I've sort of got it so it's nice and clear and it's nice and dark for you as well. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you made it this far and you're new, and then also write me a little comment, and don't forget to join me on Patreon if that's your bag. Thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely, lovely evening. Take care and goodbye. Bye bye bye.